Hello, my fellow parents. It's been far too long since I've been on here, and I do apologize. But as parents of children who are transgender or who think they are transgender, I am hoping that you will understand and accept my apology for starting the channel and then just leaving you. Instead of watching me doing boring slideshows, I'm just going to be doing some doodling art while I chat. The impetus for this video has been the recent stories in the news about Elon Musk, who said he's lost his child to the transgender movement. The child also responded. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't been able to bring myself to go and watch either of those videos or to investigate those news stories. I will at some stage, but I just wanted to say hello, just to let you all know that you're not alone. It's a difficult journey, and well, you are not alone. That's for sure. Wanted to just cover a couple of quick tips that I had for you in dealing with this journey. When we started ours, my child was 12, and now they are 18, so we've been at it for 6 years. And so what I did was I started with I had a look at it, and there was something that a principle that I really wanted to focus on, and the principle that I really wanted to focus on was to maintain a loving relationship with my child. So basically, to avoid the situation that Elon Musk has found himself in, where he is estranged from his child. And sometimes, you might think, well, he's got all the money in the world, he's the richest person in the world, and if he couldn't overcome this problem, how possibly can I overcome this problem? And I'll give you a few tips as to how I've done it. And 6 years into the journey for us, our relationship is even better than before. And when my child was young, one of the principles that we agreed on was no physical harm. And I didn't use the word harm. I'm not sure what we called it. Pretty much anything that was going to cause physical changes, anything that I thought was going to cause physical harm was a no, a hard no. And we agreed at the outset that decision would be my decision as to what I thought might constitute physical harm. And it was a bit of a process to get to that point, but we sat down and we discussed that the most important thing was to maintain our relationships, because I wanted to avoid the very thing that Elon Musk has gone through, where he has effectively lost his child to this transgender situation. Okay, and the other thing to note is that this channel there's absolutely no judgment on people who are transgender, no judgment on people who think they're transgender, no judgment on parents who do not believe their children are transgender, or if you do believe your children are transgender, wherever you're coming from. This is just a channel of love and hope and companionship. And so I had that conversation with my child. They were 12 years old at the time, and so I had the conversation, and I said, listen, we're in for a bumpy ride. I don't understand anything to do with transgender. I don't understand, yesterday you were a girl, today you say you're a boy. You're going to need to be patient with me. I'm going to need to learn about this. And my job as a parent is to love and nurture you, to make sure that you're safe. I'm not saying that I'm disagreeing with what you're telling me. I'm not saying that I'm agreeing with what you're telling me. I'm just telling you that this is something that I have no knowledge of, and we're going to have to learn and grow through the process together. It's going to be a process. And we always kept this loving relationship goal in mind. We didn't always agree with each other. The certain things we got pretty heated and pretty fiery. So we didn't always agree, but we always did keep this number one goal in mind. And this no physical harm, this we agreed was, initially I would be the one to decide what was going to be physical harm, but there would come a stage later when they would be able, it's difficult with pronouns, but I'm just going to say they. Okay. There would be a time we both understood that there would be a time when it was no longer my decision as to what happened to their bodies. So it was good to have this no physical harm policy in place to start with, because we, right from the beginning, then I could say, well, no hormones, no breast binders, because I was concerned that they would cause physical harm, even though they disagreed with me. I was the parent, and I got to choose. I got to make that decision. That was my parental decision, because my job as a parent is to keep them safe, and so this was something that we agreed on. So now we're 6 years down the track. We still have an excellent relationship. They're just about to move out of home. They have not always made decisions that I agree with, but in keeping with these two strategies, which I've now coloured over, in keeping with these two strategies, they did honour this this no physical harm, but then it did mean that together with the no physical harm, the third thing that we agreed was that any transgender action that they would want to take that did not have physical harm, any other action was okay. So this meant that if the action didn't have physical harm, then I would agree to it. So, for example, cutting their long hair. There's no physical harm. It's going to grow back, and it was quite good to have this value and this principle that guided the decision making, especially in the early days. So, cutting their hair, obviously, there's no physical harm. So, it wasn't me saying yes or no. It was this guiding principle. No physical. And it was tough. I can tell you that it was tough when it came to things that I hadn't thought about, like going into the department store and buying clothes from the men's and the boys sections. I hadn't thought of that when I agreed to these principles, and I wasn't happy. It was heartbreaking for me to see my little girl running happily past all the pretty dresses and the sparkling tiaras into the menswear section to decide what style of boxer shorts she wanted, what style of men's underwear she was going to buy. And that was tough, but we had reached this agreement that anything that did not have physical harm would be okay, and I would allow them the opportunity to explore their gender and explore their whatever they needed to explore. And so I had made that promise, and I stuck to that promise, and it was hard. I mean, she would go into the change room with her haul of menswear, and I would be almost collapsed outside, grieving, just about in tears, because I just thought it was wrong. I just, that was my little girl going in there into the change room. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say to you is that it's a process. There's going to be, sometimes it's going to be upsetting, sometimes it's going to be easier than other times. But for me, the whole point, everything that I did, every decision that we made, and look, by no means did we make every right decision, but every decision we made was coming back to this agreement that I'd made with my daughter to maintain the loving relationship. So as hard as it was to see her go in and pick out men's clothes and come out feeling all happy and skipping around like a like a little girl, because we had agreed on this strategy, to me the most important thing was to maintain the loving relationship. And I had to also realize that this wasn't my journey. This wasn't my journey. This was my child's journey. This is a footprint. It was her life, and I could guide her, but she had to walk it, and I could only walk beside her and try and be the reasonable influence on her journey. So that's what we did. And I'm so glad that we did this. We discussed this. We went through this in the early days, because I feel that if we hadn't had these thoughts, these discussions, and the only reason why I came up with this was because I'd done quite a bit of research, and I'd seen how many other parents had lost their children to the transgender I don't know what to call it, ideology. You know, when we agreed on this no physical harm, and this could be a very difficult sticking point for many of you, because of course they don't see it as harm when they want to take hormones. They see it as part of becoming who they really are meant to be inside. So if you can't get to this agreement with them, I'm not sure what you do. But we had a very good psychologist that my daughter had been seeing for many years, and the psychologist actually sat in on some conversations that we had, so that we could each discuss our viewpoints. But you have to be very careful when you get a third party involved like that, particularly a medical third party. And in the 6 years ago when we did this, the pendulum had swung towards the medical profession being extremely pushy about what did they called it, a gender affirming model. So if a child said that they were the opposite gender, no matter how young they were, the medical people would just reaffirm that, rather than having a conversation or letting the child explore their gender. And so this really helped us move through a lot of different issues, but getting agreement on this first one was a major step forward, because there was a lot of social media influence on my daughter that made her think that parents are mean and wicked. Parents just want to somehow control you. They want to they don't know what's best for you. They want to stop you from going down the transgender path, because they want to control your life. They're going to ruin your life. So there was all this outside influence that my daughter had in her head about the parents' role, and what to expect from parents, and how we were going to try and manipulate the situation. And so having the conversation about, how much we loved her, and how wanted she had been when she was born, and all of this, and explaining that we didn't understand anything to do with transgender anything, and we were going to need to, it was going to be a journey. We were all going to need to explore it together, and she was going to have to be patient with us. We were going to have to be patient with her. And so this was very, very good. And we didn't come to this 3-step thingamabob all in one go. This was the very first thing that we did was, look, you've sprung this on us. this was totally unexpected. We didn't we didn't see this coming, and so this was the very first. Well, before we did the maintain the loving relationship, we actually had the give me time conversation. So if your child has sprung something on you, you don't have to give them a response straight away. That was the very first conversation we had. Was we we don't know anything about this. We don't know where this is coming from. We don't understand, or we don't. This doesn't. We were very careful at that time not to judge, but we just said, listen, we need to think about this. We didn't judge, but we just said, look, you've caught us off guard here. This is a very important topic. You are very important to us. You're more important than anything in the world. We can't just have a conversation about this. And it is difficult because when they spring this on you, and certainly in our case, our daughter was very excited. She'd been watching things on YouTube, and she was very excited about discovering in her mind that she was a boy. And she had already been prepared by social media that we were going to what would you say, be a force to rebel against, because we were going to try and stop her in her tracks. So I think this very first thing was give us time. This was a very good strategy, because you don't want to say something off the cuff. You don't want to say something that's going to make things worse. Tensions are already high. Yeah, so that was good. First one was give me time. The second one was, once we had a chance to think about it, once we'd had a chance for my husband and I to be on the same page on how we were going to at least deal with the initial impacts, we had this maintain a loving relationship conversation with her. And that was really good, because she'd been primed by social media to believe falsely that we were going to be trying to ruin her life or keep her apart from what was called on social media her chosen family. So we weren't her chosen family. We were just blood. We just happened to be there as an accident of birth. She just accidentally happened to be born to us, and this is the rhetoric that she was believing on social media, that her chosen family, the transgender community, were actually her true family, and those were the ones who loved and cared for her. So we spent quite a lot of time explaining, you wouldn't think you need to, but she also has autism, so that does complicate things, especially when it comes to relationships and perceptions about love and that kind of thing. So we took a lot of time to explain how important she was, and because she was important, we said, because you are so important to us, that's why we needed time to understand. We couldn't react to this news that she thought was so exciting. We couldn't react to it off the cuff, because she is so important to us. We needed to make sure that we fully understood what she was telling us. And yeah, so it was good. It was a good start. Give ourselves time, and we made sure to tell her we were not judging her. And then when we came back and spoke to her again, we spoke about maintaining a loving relationship. We spoke again about not judging, and we spoke to her about, you've been researching all this transgender stuff for years. This is the first, we're hearing about it, and we need to make sure that we're knowledgeable. We need to educate ourselves, because you are so important, because we want to make sure we understand what it is that you're going through. So that, yeah, we got to that. And then it sort of took a few months to evolve into this. My husband and I had decided that the most important thing was going to be to try and make sure that she didn't rush to hormones and that kind of thing, or demanding surgery. And so then our goal became just to give her an opportunity to mature and make sure that this was a decision that she wasn't going to later regret. So we always said she could, always change her mind. We wouldn't judge that. That it was her journey. We were there just to walk with her. And then we when we came up with this no physical harm rule, she then said, well, if it's a no physical harm rule, she would agree to that. I mean, she was only 12. Reluctantly agreed to that, but then we had to agree to this. Anything that didn't relate to physical harm was okay, so that led to difficulties when dealing with pronouns. And I don't know if we said physical harm or if we said permanent harm, because I remember around the pronoun issue, we had a discussion and a disagreement as to whether changing pronouns would cause permanent harm, because we thought that by using a masculine pronoun, we might be reinforcing concepts of being transgender that might not otherwise be reinforced. So yeah, I think we said no permanent harm. So yeah, I mean, it's not straightforward, it's not tricky, but and I'm not saying that these are the values that you need to espouse, but for us, this is what worked. And just seeing Elon Musk's news coming up in the news that he's lost his child to the transgender community, that was heartbreaking and just made me go back and remember. And so, 6 years on, I'm not going to, this video is already long enough, I'm not going to talk about where we're at and our progress. I will do that in a separate video, but I just wanted to get on here and send support to all of you that are going through difficult times, and just to suggest having some kind of a value system that you could fall back on, because it really made it a lot easier when it came to most of the decisions moving forward. And so when it came to, do you get a binder or not? No, because we're concerned that it will give you physical or permanent harm. Do you do hormones? No, because of it obviously gives permanent harm. And again, there was another conversation as to whether or not it was harm, because her view was that it was just correcting her gender, so she didn't see it as harm. But we said, well, when it comes to what is harmful, we get the ultimate decision, but we had to be my cat, sorry, my cat. Although we had the ultimate decision, we also had to be reasonable. So, for example, cutting her hair was an obvious one. And I'll in the next video I'll go through how we applied these principles and how it made things in our lives easier. There's my kitty cat. He wants to say hello. All right, lovely parents. It's a tough time, but you are not walking this journey alone. And I will be posting more regularly from now on. So take care, and yeah, there can be light at the end of the tunnel. 6 years on, our child is next week moving out of home, and we still have a very good, loving relationship. We have not agreed with all of the decisions that they've made. They've not agreed with all of the decisions we've made. But at the end of the day, we've been able to maintain a respectful, loving relationship, and that's meant the world to me. So yeah, the last thing I wanted was to lose my child, like really have them out of my life. So and for some parents, they can't do that. They're like, you are not transgender, and you have to stay if you're born a boy, you're a boy. If you're born a girl, you're a girl. And a lot of parents can't work through a process of anything else. And I'm not judging you. This is difficult. This is a very, very difficult process. And if that's your process, that's your process. But understand that the consequence could be that you lose that child from your life. That child leaves your life. And if that is your values, that is your guiding principle, that it's You're either in my life as the gender you're born, or you're out of my life. If that is your guiding principle, I'm not judging. I'm not judging you whatsoever, but just understand that the result may be that you do lose them from your life. And I've come across many, many parents to whom that has happened, and it is tragic. But if that's you, that's the decision you need to make. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you back soon.